Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our February board meeting. There are three exciting things about today. The first, that is on this day in 1878, 141 years ago, Thomas Edison submitted his patent for the phonograph, which was the first machine that could reproduce recorded sound. And also today is a full moon, and it's a supermoon, which means that the moon is as close to the Earth as it gets, and should be spectacular if we could see it, which I think it's been pretty overcast. We might not be able to. And the third thing is that for the first time in 5 months, we have our fifth board member, Jeff Bradshaw. Happy he's here. So to go ahead and start, I'm Anna Marie Pavlik-Rosen, Chair of the Frankfort Plant Board. Vice Chair, Walt Baldwin. Secretary Treasurer, Dawn Hale. Steve Mason, who is not here yet. Jeff Bradshaw, our new board member, and James Liebman. Jeff, at this time, would you like to say a few words about your interest in being on the board and your background?
Sure. Well, I'm excited to be here. I think that my experience in the last 10 years has prepared me for at least doing what I can to help the plant board function, to provide guidance. It's quite the presence in this community, and that means a lot to me. I've come to really love Frankfort, as been adopted it as my hometown. I'm really excited to meet staff and do what I can to see that we move forward and accomplish a lot of great things together. So thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So, first board meeting. My first item is approve the meeting minutes from the January 15th, 2019 board meeting and the January 29th, 2019 special meeting. Do you have a motion to approve those?
So you're not including the Cable Advisory Committee meeting in there? On January 8th? Because I had a question about that.
Well, I guess I was doing it from item 1.1 first. And
Okay. Okay.
If
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll make a motion then to approve the minutes from January 15th and January 29th special meeting.
And we have a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
And then item 1.2, accept meeting minutes from the January 8th, 2019 Cable Advisory Committee meeting. Dawn, you said you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question on that. Yesterday, when I was going through the board packet and preparing for the meeting today, it just hit me that, when one approves minutes, you're saying that the minutes reflect what happened in the meeting. None of us are in that meeting, so I don't see how we can approve minutes of a meeting that we're not in. I thought it would be more logical to have the Cable Advisory Committee approve their own minutes, and then we accept those minutes into the record.
Well, actually, what it does say here is accept the minutes. So we are only accepting them, we're not approving them. But, so you're questioning that the Cable Advisory Committee should approve them first before we accept them?
Well, yeah, because from looking at their minutes, they don't have anything on their agenda that indicates that they have approved their minutes.
Okay. Oh, good.
I work with the chairman. I send him the minutes, and he approves them. Or he says that he's good with them, and then we submit them to you guys for acceptance. We can certainly change how that's if you'd like it to be included. I think part of the reason for that was because they only meet quarterly.
Right.
That the lag
Right.
between the meeting happening and you guys actually seeing the minutes was sometimes months, and so the idea was we could just have them review them electronically and get them on the agenda for you guys to accept. But we can certainly change how that process is.
I don't have a problem with accepting them. It's just, to me, the connotation of approving means that you were there, you know what went on, and you're saying that the minutes accurately reflect that.
Right.
And I don't think that we can say that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've always intended for them to be for you guys to just accept them and not to
Okay.
approve them.
And the agenda item
It-
is for accept.
Yeah, it does say accept
Okay.
here. So I think
Okay.
that's good, and thank you for explaining
Yeah.
that gap, that if they only meet each quarter, then we wouldn't get the meeting minutes
Right.
until
Yeah, 6
May,
months
maybe.
later.
April.
Yeah, and
So-
they don't always meet every quarter either, so
Right.
sometimes, yeah,
Right.
it's 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept the cable advisory minutes?
I'll make the motion to accept them.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All in favor of accepting the cable advisory committee meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Okay, item number 2, or 2.1, financial reports.
Yes, Ms. Rosen.
Okay, David.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Bradshaw, welcome to the board. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'd like to go ahead and start, just as we do each month, looking at, start on page 15. The Frankfort Plant Board is a fiscal year nonprofit corporation. So we'll start with our statement of net position. This is a snapshot of the balance sheet accounts as of January 31st, 2019. I'll just do a quick overview. Total assets as of January 31st, 2019, this is 7 months through our fiscal year. Line 65, total assets of just over $179.2 million. Of that, 65% of our total assets are composed of our property, plant, and equipment, net of our accumulated depreciation. They are on line 45 of just over $116 million. We don't have a whole lot of change in the balance sheet from month to month, but something worth noting to the board, as you'll see in lines 5 and 10, we've worked to make our cash work more for the plant board and for the customers of the plant board, and putting more cash into interest earning accounts and certificates of deposit. So you can see we've had a switch. We moved $5 million during the month of January over to a CD just to have additional interest earning on that. The other point I'd make on our assets for the period is line 60, retirement plan assets. If you'll recall, the board several months ago approved a plan to eliminate our old retirement account. This is the retirement account that existed prior to the Frankfort Plant Board joining Kentucky Retirement Systems. So we have identified and contacted all of the plan participants, either got an annuity or a fixed sum for them. All those assets were distributed, and the remaining funds were liquidated and are now the property of the Frankfort Plant Board. So you'll no longer see that old retirement account there. One of the decisions is it just was a lot of maintenance for us to keep years over year over year, plus the plan was overfunded. So I just want to make sure, let you know that now that process is finished. So those are the two big changes to assets for the period. Looking at our liabilities, on line 70 through 85 are our accounts payable, accrued expenses, customer deposits, totaling just over $17.3 million. When you look at lines 90 through 105, that is our debt service, or I should say our debt balances, lease balances, loan balances, just under $39.4 million. And then you look at lines 110 through 125, these are our Kentucky Retirement System pension obligations that the plant board has booked. That's just under $39.4 million as well, bringing our total liabilities as of January 31st to just over $96.2 million. If you take our assets minus our liabilities, that leaves you with our net position on lines 135 through 160 of just over $83 million for the period. Most of that net position is invested in capital assets. That's the value of the asset, or the book value of the asset, less the debt. Bringing our total liabilities and net position to just over $179.2 million. I'd be glad to address any questions or on the balance sheet. If not, I'd like to move over to page 16 and just go over our monthly cash and investment schedule. This lays out our restricted and unrestricted cash and investments. I'll just go straight to line 80, restricted and unrestricted cash as of January 31st, just over $21.5 million. And you can see on lines 85 through 135 are restricted and unrestricted investments, which are in certificates of deposit of just under $14.5 million. So that's our cash and investments as of January 31st. If there are no questions there, I'd like to move over and talk for a moment about our liabilities on page 17, looking at our bonds, leases, and notes payable. We started the year out just under $42 million in debt and have paid off 8% of that currently through this first 7 months of the year. I have paid down $3.5 million in debt service, or I should say in principal payments, leaving our current balance as of January 31st at just over $38.4 million. All of our budgeted amounts are based completely off of the amortization schedule, so we're on track to reduce our total debt holdings for the company at 40% over the next 5 years, which is a great statistic I like to throw out. I'd like for a moment to talk about the financial performance of the company. I look to flip over to page 19 and look at our statement of revenue, expenses, and change in net position. This is a company-wide summary. It consolidates our electric, water, and telecom divisions and all of our administrative departments as well. You'll notice on line 20, total operating revenue of just over $60.1 million. I tend to focus on the year-to-date numbers. Timing and things make month-to-month figures kind of hard to compare, so focusing on the year-to-date amounts. You'll notice in our next to last column, I mean, we are like very, very close to last year's revenue at this point of time. So tracking just as similar as we were to last year. Looking at our operating expenses, lines 25 through 50. These are what it takes us to physically provide the service to our customers. This is our wholesale power, our water treatment, all of the programming and telecom services we have to purchase, plus the men and women in the field to make all this work. We have total operating expenses of just under $42 million, bringing our gross contribution on line 55 of just under $18.3 million. You look at our general and admin expenses totaling on line 280 at just over $13.5 for the year. Add in your other revenue, and on line 355, you'll see we're just under $6 million in increase in net contribution for the period, which is just in line with last year as well. So, you know, we lay out our budget, we present to the board, and the board approved a plan to be able to pay all of our operating, service our debt, infrastructure. And so all these numbers basically come back to show that the plan that the board's approved, that we are on track and actually doing just a little better than expected. So to sum it all up, we are progressing forward for the year like we thought. We have detailed statements of revenue, expense, and change in net position for all of our divisions and departments, plus a summary of all of our bank accounts and the check registers for our two most active checking accounts as well. I'd be glad to go over any questions you might have on the financials. It seems like it comes around very quickly. We've got already started talking about budgets, and just want to kind of let you know that, you know, staff, we're starting to have those discussions. In the past, I've usually brought a proposed timeline to the board of how the budget would look as far as the timing of preparation. And so I look to bring a proposed schedule to the board just to give you an idea. We can always change it, but to give you an idea of what we're looking at in timing. And I just wanted to let the board know that for any projects or initiatives that you would like the board to, or I should say staff, to include in the budget, we love to hear those ideas and discussions so we can get those into the budget as well. So that's pretty much where we are for 7 months of the year.
Thank you, David. And I think that you mentioned at our last meeting, too, to look over the budget from this last year to start thinking about it, that would be a good place for us to start.
Yes, in our 5-year plan, we've got a plan for 2019-20's fiscal year. So not just our board, but any of our ratepayers or those tuning in to watch can look at that year and kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. I mean, we'll tighten up our capital plans, we'll tighten up detailed expenses, but you can kind of get a good idea by looking at our current budget.
Okay, good. And I guess just one other thing I was thinking about, United Bank just became Westco, or West Banco, I guess, and we have a lot of work with them. Is that going smoothly, or?
It is. We had plans, communications with them leading up to the transition date, and so far we've had to stay in contact with them, but things have gone well. our payments are getting applied from our customers, and direct deposits to our employees on payroll are working out. So,
Okay.
so it's gone well. Thanks for asking.
Good,
It's a big change.
Well, I noticed that I got a message about a delinquent on payment, and we had put in, Richard handles it, but put in the request for West Banco to pay the bill on the 11th, and I believe they paid it today.
Okay.
And I think there may be numerous people this happened to, so it's something to watch.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we have a second from Dawn, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone here who wants to make a public comment?
Clarification on something. My name is Amy Benson-Haver. I'd just like a clarification from the gentleman. On that issue, does the board ultimately approve them after they've been submitted, the minutes have been submitted to this group for acceptance? Yeah, I think that's probably something you all want to consider, because that body really does need to approve its own minutes, and that this board should be, this group should be presented with draft minutes. They accept draft minutes in lieu of, because that gives the impression those have been approved by the body. Yeah, that would be the better approach. And I'm just interested because of my background in open records and open meetings, so thanks. I think that would be a better practice, though.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe what we should consider there is calling them draft minutes. But I think it's very nice that we have them in a timely way so that we know what's going on. So that's good. Okay. Thank you, Amy. Anyone else who might want to make a comment? Okay. We'll go on. Informational items, department reports, website customer comments. I noticed that there were a few. Have those been resolved?
Yes, ma'am. That would have been taken care of.
Okay. And so then go on to January cable reports.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the cable report starts on page 97 of your board package. Basically, the first page is your customer penetration numbers. We're above budget on all areas. We're a little behind actually in security and pay-per-view. A lot of the pay-per-view is based on movies available. So if there's no major titles, you don't get as many buys. The next page of the report on page 98 is the trouble call. We're down 92 from this time last year, which is good to have a less trouble call. Basically, we're still pretty high on customer education. The last several months we've been this way. We're changing out a lot of old equipment, modems, routers, things of that nature. The one thing we have is replaced MTA, which falls underneath a trouble call, and that's actually part of an upgrade that we've been replacing outdoor MTA, the telephone units with indoor units. And so that kind of makes that number a little higher, but that next couple of months that might even grow as we phase out these older outdoor phone units to indoor units. No questions on that. Page 99 and 100 are your outages. We had 3 outages in January. January 13th, we had a noise issue. And actually, part of this issue was the contractors that were working on the active replacement. They actually fused the line up that shouldn't have been fused and created a reflection, which caused some noise. That was resolved. On the 17th, we had it was actually a residential fire, but it was a garage that caught fire. And it was right underneath the cable lines that burnt the cable down. And so that was the outage on the 17th. And the last outage was on January 30th, where we had a power supply that quit working. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Good evening, members of the board. The customer service reports are on pages 101 and 102. There were 175 new accounts added, 4,945 calls handled in-house, 1,545 walk-ins, and 6,696 cashier transactions processed in the office. The second page is just the breakdown of what those walk-ins are that we've been trying to track, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
One question on the pie chart.
Yes, ma'am.
It was 21% in for adjusting a payment plan. Payment adjustments.
It's payment arrangements. Those are people who are coming in and saying, I can't pay my bill, and they set up a specific payment plan with a CSR3.
And I noticed 21%, that seemed high. Is that typical or is it?
We've only been tracking it like this for about 3 months, so I would honestly have to go back and look at that percentage to see if it was higher than normal, but I know our walk-ins for the month were higher, and I would attribute that probably to the winter months of billing, but that would be a guess on my part. Yes, ma'am, I'd be happy to go back and look at it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have the electrical report.
Yes, Madam Chair and fellow board members, as you turn to page 103, you will see that our SAIDI numbers are running about average, 63.187. On page 104, we'll show your pie chart with the percentages for each cause of an outage. Page 105 will take those percentages and tell you how many actual outages for each category. And if you'll notice at that line, you'll see a total of 13 outages for the month of January. And then on page 106 is the top 10 outages for the month of January. And the total customers affected for the month was 29. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I had one question on page 104. It said equipment damage was the cause of 31% of the failures. Is that just equipment wearing out, or?
No, it's equipment damage is usually from a car accident hitting a pole, or
Okay.
trucks tearing into, snagging into lines, stuff like that. We get dump trucks, or not dump trucks, garbage trucks are really notorious for getting their dumpsters, and then sometimes instead of dumping it, they'll back up, and when they dump it, they'll have it too high, and they tear down poles and lines, and then, of course, car accidents. That's usually what falls in that category.
Oh, okay.
Any more questions?
Is that, thank you. Okay. The SEPA report.
Yes, Madam Chair, Board, you'll notice the SEPA report starts on page 107. And so you'll see the chart. Again, this is the December, so this is kind of for the, you'll get to see the whole year of 2018 laid out here. Page 108 kind of has that laid out numerically, and you'll see for the month of December, we were $20,506 to the good, and then that gives us a calendar year total of $92,830. I think we budgeted 20, was it, I've asked you this, how many times, 20, keep wanting to say 21. We budgeted 21,000 to the positive this year, and we came out 92. So I guess that's some benefit of all the rain we saw this year. But anyway, if you'll move on to page 109, you will see the 22-year summary history of what we've been able to realize from SEPA. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I noticed that it's the first time in 4 years that we have ended in positive.
That's correct.
That's very good. And I also noticed that the rate that we were paid in December was $42.25 versus $32.25 earlier. What do you think contributed to getting paid so much better?
Those are the market prices, whatever they may be. There could be lots of different things. I don't know of any specific market pressures or things that caused it, but I'm not an expert.
Well, I've noticed articles about all these different businesses that want to go to 100% renewable by 2035 or various things. And so that would seem to make our SEPA energy more valuable. And I thought maybe this was some of that indication, but that was just a guess.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. I think it may have just been market pressures from, could have been weather, or who knows what it went. I'm not sure.
Well, it's positive for us.
It is positive, and that's good for the year. Again, we're above budget, so we're thankful for that. And hopefully next year with KyMEA using our SEPA, so in effect, we get to use it for our own portfolio now for the first time, and we think we'll be able to realize more value, and next year should be even more positive on the bottom line.
Okay.
So,
Great.
great.
Good, thank you. So the safety report.
I do have one OSHA recordable for this month. An electric employee slipped in the mud and sprained his ankle, so he was on restricted duty. But there were no vehicle accidents.
Okay, that's good.
Madam Chair, did you want a KyMEA report?
Oh, did I miss that? Oh, you're right, I missed that, thank you. Yes, do we have a, Jerry?
Yes, we do. The board of KyMEA approved the budget last month. It went through very tedious process and reviewed the proposal from staff, and all the board members feel confidence is relatively lower cost compared to the proposal. That's what we want to do in the beginning. We want to run the real lean mean organization. Hope before the May 1st we deliver first kilowatt hour, we can have a solid foundation for us. And also the board reviewed the new AR rate, all requirement rate. Most likely will be next week when we have a board meeting, we're going to review proof that. We hope, before we prove that, we hope we will deliver good news for us. I don't think we'll meet the forecast, 14% saving, but it's going to be relatively lower than that number, but it will provide a saving. I don't know, can see exactly until prove it, but I think it's more than half we predicted. Compared to the uncertainty of a DEPARTMENTAL agreement and everything else, that's probably not a bad choice to us. We will have more information delivered after board may approve the AR rate for the next week. I will report to the board next month's board meeting. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so water distribution.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Water distribution reports on page 113 through 115, and we had one main break and 2 outages. It's a good month.
Yeah, pretty quiet.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So water treatment plant.
Good evening, Board, Madam Chairman. In January, the water treatment plant treated 243 million gallons of water. We averaged about 8.4 million gallons of water a day. So we're down a little bit, but that's typical for the winter months. We're down a little bit in comparison to 2018, but 18 was a colder month for January. So we had warmer temperatures. We had a lot of rain again. So that kept pumpage down for the month. We were right under 4 inches of rain, but we still saw quite a bit of flow in the river. The river was still averaging close to 15.6 billion gallons of water a day coming past the intake. So we're still in that very wet, very muddy condition with the river. Other than that, the treatment plant's running well. Staff is doing a good job, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay. Action item 5.1. Consider award bid invitation 1672 for 2 2500 kVA pad mounted transformers to Cape Electrical Supply in the amount of $74,440. Jennifer.
Staff prepared a bid invitation for two 2,500 kVA pad-mounted transformers. The invitation was sent to 9 vendors. We received 5 responses by the deadline on January 16th. After reviewing all of the bids, staff recommends awarding to Cape Electrical Supply. They were the lowest bidder, meeting specifications. And these transformers are needed to replenish the inventory levels to the minimum amount. You can see the tab sheet on page 119 of all the responses. And I'll do my best to answer any questions if you have.
Have we purchased from them in the past?
We purchase from them regularly, small items up to big. Yeah, they're a regular vendor for us.
Okay.
I move we award bid invitation 1672 for two 2,500 kVA pad-mounted transformers to Cape Electrical in the amount of $74,440.
And a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of buying the transformers?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Thank you, Jennifer. Action item, approve contractor agreements for storm response with Davis Elliott, Groves Construction, and Bolin Companies. Scott to explain.
Yes, Ms. Chairman and fellow board members. Staff is asking the board to approve storm response agreements with the following companies: Davis H. Elliott, Groves Construction, and Bowling Companies. There's 2 parts of this agreement. What they do for us is, 1, these are required by FEMA to be reimbursed by FEMA, such if we did have a big storm, we had to have additional help. These are on record for that purpose. And second, also, if we did was to have a major, say, snowstorm come through Kentucky, and all of our mutual aid municipal groups can't help us because they're in the same situation, these companies will furnish workers to help us get our power back on. All 3 companies are in Kentucky. 2 of them are within 35 miles of Frankfort, and the other one's in Western Kentucky. And the board staff attorney has approved these, reviewed them. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
I would add to it, you may have seen this every year. It's an annual thing we come up. Again, this is for a FEMA requirement that we do it. And also understand, we're not buying anything. This is just putting them on record that we have 3 companies that are available. And we're not required to only use these companies if we have an issue. They may be busy, but again, we're checking the block on the FEMA requirement here that we need to have done. That's all that is.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. It means that we have something set up so we don't end up with price gouging.
That's exactly what FEMA does.
We have a
Yes,
plan.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So it's good.
And hope we never ever use it. So.
Hopefully not.
I move we approve the contract agreements for storm response with Davis Elliott, Groves Construction, and Bolin Companies.
And Don seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Our next item, consider increasing the rate for classic cable services and increasing the rate for bulk cable 1 and bulk cable 2. Harvey Couch to explain.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Staff recommends the approval of the proposed rates. These increases are necessary in order to keep pace with the increases in the wholesale license fees FPB must pay the programmers. If approved, the classic cable rate would increase by $3.50 per month to $67 per month. The bulk cable 1 rate would increase by 80 cents per outlet per month, and the bulk cable 2 rate would increase by $1.39 per outlet per month. As a reminder, on January 15th, the board approved the public meeting notice, and that hearing was conducted on January 29th. No customer comments were received at that hearing or between January 29th and today. If you would look at page 127, or you can look at the screen here, you can see what the trend has been over the last 16 years. The blue line here, or the blue line here is our retail rate, and the orange line is our programming expense. So it has tracked really exactly with what the retail has been. And you can see the difference here in the green line, which is just the difference between the expense and the retail. And that's been really flat. In fact, it's actually gone down $1 over the last 16 years. So you can also see that expressed differently here as a percentage of the bill, the green line being FPB's operating expense as a percentage of the bill, and the blue being the programming expense as a percentage of the bill. This trend is not unique to Frankfort. In the past 2 months, companies like DirecTV, AT&T, Dish Network, Charter, Comcast have all raised prices, and as well as virtual operators such as DirecTV Now, YouTube TV, and Hulu Live have all either raised their prices or announced increases. Even Netflix isn't immune to the increased cost of content either. Their most popular plan will increase by nearly 20% next month, their third increase in the last 3.5 years. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about this item.
I have a question back on the previous chart.
Sure.
The red line ends at 2015.
Yeah.
We don't have any more data?
Well, no, that's the most recent data. It generally tracked about 2 years behind the time it took for them to collect the data and the FCC to put it together and review the report. I haven't gotten an answer whether they've stopped collecting that. I'm not sure because it seems a little bit longer than what it should be.
4 years.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'll endeavor to ask. I'm not sure if it's something that they've
Well, I was just curious if it's going up higher than we are, or.
Right. Yeah. I don't. That's the most recent data I've got.
Okay. Thank you. So, any other questions? Or I know everyone's concerned about raising rates, but I think we've played out all the options. We're stuck.
I just appreciate the graphs because I think they do give us an opportunity to show the public that we're really working to keep our costs down. So I appreciate that.
Well, I move that we approve the increase of rates for classic cable services and increasing the rate for bulk cable services 1 and bulk cable services 2.
And a second? Okay. So we have a motion to increase rates and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Harvey. And consider approving 11 sports network renewal. Harvey again.
Thank you. Staff recommends approval of the 11 Sports Network. This is an NCTC agreement with a term through September 30th, 2021. Year-over-year increases are just over 4% annually, which is below what was budgeted, and no increases to the Sports Plus rate will be required. 11 Sports is available on FPB's optional sports tier, so this only impacts those customers that choose to subscribe to that tier. VOD and TV Everywhere rights are included in this new agreement. No additional carriage requirements or obligations are included, and it has been reviewed by the staff attorney and meets with his approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item.
About how many sports network customers do we have?
I think about 100 maybe.
Okay. Just to give some perspective of how many people are affected. So do we have a motion to approve the network renewal for?
Sure. I'll move we approve the 11 sports network renewal.
A second.
Okay, and a second from Jeff. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Okay.
Thank you all.
Our next item says informational items. I think this is what we had been calling, or no?
It's just a section.
Oh,
Just don't have it.
oh, we don't have it?
Placeholder.
I see, okay. We're using a new format here, so it's a
new
little bit,
software,
okay.
and It's just a placeholder.
Okay. Then informational item from the general manager. Do you have any comments?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. And then new and old business, do we have anything?
I have some old business.
Okay.
In December, Mr. Mark Kopp, the superintendent of Franklin County Schools, was here asking the plant board to partner with them for 6 water bottle stations, 3 in each of the 2 high schools. And we haven't discussed that to this point. And I just wanted us to take the opportunity to discuss it. I think it's a good opportunity for us to partner with the community. Drinking water is healthier than drinking soft drinks and will help develop good nutritional habits in the kids. It's good for the environment because people are using fewer water bottles. If people drink more water, we sell more water. And families will save money by not having to buy bottled water for their children to take to school. So they're saving money, and then again, we're not using, the plastic isn't being used. Franklin County Schools are one of our biggest ratepayers, paying us over $1 million a year for our services. In addition, there are 6,303 students in the Franklin County School District, and these children's parents are also ratepayers. So when we think about giving back to the community, I think this is a great opportunity for us to do that. We have money in the budget to promote Frankfort on Tap, and the $6,000 being asked for can come from that budget item, so we're not having to look for the money anyplace. We've already spent $8,836 on the 3 water fountains that we've partnered with the city on that are at the St. Clair Mall, Lakeview Park, and Juniper Hills Park. These water fountains are not in use all year round. Like right now, you can't go get a drink of water from them. In contrast, the water fountains that would be in the school will be in use all year round. One of the water fountains will be placed in each high school right outside their gym. And if we have our logo on it, that's everybody that's coming to a ball game or any other function that's in the gym will be able to see our logo, and which gives us an opportunity to, have some good PR out there. And, we've spent a good $240,000 in the last year and a half that I've been on the board on consultants. And I think if we can spend money on consultants, we can put $6,000 into the school system to get water fountains in the school system. So I would hope, Mr. Kopp was here earlier, and I told him that we hadn't discussed it as a board previously. And Steve isn't here. And so I wanted the opportunity for us to discuss it as a board before we vote on it, because Steve once before said how he doesn't like to vote on things, that are brought up immediately. Although we've had since December to think about this. So I would really hope that you all would consider partnering with the schools. They will be installing the water fountains. They'll be doing the maintenance on the water fountains. They will be buying the filters for them. They just ask for us to pay the $1,000 that the water stations cost. So I would hope that you all would consider that, and next month I'll bring it up again and we can vote on it.
Okay, thank you.
And if y'all are opposed to it, I'd really like to understand why you're opposed to it.
Well, along that line, one thing I noticed that the Frankfort High School, the city high school, has this type of drinking fountain, and they managed to put it in themselves.
Well, that was a senior project that was done, so the school system itself didn't put the stations in. It was the annual senior project that did that. The kids raised the money to do it.
Good point.
We've put water fountains around town. We were talking about putting one at the farmer's market, which I don't have a problem with that. I think it's great. But, we've spent $8,836, putting the water fountains in the parks and in St. Clair Mall. I think if we can spend $8,836 to do it there, why can't we spend $6,000 to put it in the schools when we have it in the budget? And if they drink more water, we sell more water.
So is there actually a proposal that has all this written down? Is there actually a formal plan somewhere?
In writing, no. I mean, he came and he asked if you wanted in a formal proposal in writing. I'm sure that Mr. Kopp would be happy to do that. So is that what y'all are asking for before the next meeting?
Well, I think at a minimum, before, if we were going to vote on something, we'd have to actually see, what we're actually voting on.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. 6 water fountains at $1,000 apiece.
Well, one concern I have is that these are 2 high schools. There are many other schools in the city besides the 2 high schools, and what if all of them want to apply? I think maybe formalizing some system would be what we should be voting on.
Well, then make a presentation of that. I mean, I think that we owe it to the school system to tell them yes or no, instead of just leaving them hanging out there. You know, they came, they brought students, it was a students' initiative. I think just out of common decency, we should be able to tell them either yes or no, and not take 6 months to do it. It's not rocket science.
Okay, well, it sounds like this is something we can move on next month.
Okay.
And so we'll go on to request permission to have a closed-door session.
So moved. Do we need to read the?
Oh, yes.
Pursuant to, closed-door session pursuant to KRS 618101C to discuss pending litigation regarding the reservoir.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we
I
probably
do.
want to. Yeah.
We do. Yep.
So we got a motion, we need a second and a vote?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of going into closed session?
Aye.
Aye. Let's see, do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passed. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone.